Family, familia, what's up? What is good? Felt inspired to make a video riffing about non-dual Christianity. Non-dual Christianity. Um, yeah, I've seen some people assert that Christianity cannot be synthesized with Buddhism, for example, that the two are just completely at odds, or at least that they have irreconcilable differences. And I've come to feel that this is a limiting view. It's a limiting view. If you look at Dzogchen Buddhism, um, widely considered the highest teaching of Tibetan Buddhism, I believe, or Tantric Buddhism, the highest expression of the Vajrayana, Dzogchen actually asserts a trinity. A friend pointed this out to me recently, peace to Max. And I had known about the trinity within Dzogchen, but I hadn't made the leap for some reason. I hadn't connected it to the trinity in Christianity, but he kind of spelled that out for me. And so in Dzogchen, you've got the Dharmakaya, the truth body, which represents ultimate reality. You've got the Sambhogakaya, the energy body, which represents the radiant expression of the truth body as radiant energy. And you've got the Nirmanakaya, which represents the physical manifestation of sentient life. So it's kind of like Dharmakaya is pure emptiness, Sambhogakaya is the effortless radiance or self-luminosity of this emptiness, and the Nirmanakaya is the miraculous way in which the Sambhogakaya can present as a physical world of physical beings and manifestations. And so it's really fascinating to notice that these actually map beautifully onto the Trinity of Christianity. God the Father, in this conception, would represent the innermost essence, the pure formless awareness, the pure emptiness, pure consciousness. The Holy Spirit would map onto Sambhogakaya as kind of the dancing Shakti, the luminous life force that emanates forth from this pure stainless awareness. And Jesus Christ, the Son, would represent and map onto the Nirmanakaya, which is the physical human manifestation of divinity, the way in which the Dharmakaya and Sambhogakaya miraculously present as and shapeshift into and poetically express as these sacramental human journeys that we are all living. So there's actually this incredibly parsimonious symmetry. Parsimonious, I believe I'm using that word correctly. This incredible symmetry, this incredible harmony between these two systems. And yeah, I don't really strongly identify as a Buddhist or a Christian at this moment. And yet both of these traditions are really dear to my heart. Both these traditions have deeply impacted me. And I was raised Christian, I was raised Catholic, and I the last couple years I went through this profoundly deep reintegration of Christianity. It was very like cellular, it was very visceral. There were these vivid, tangible experiences of Jesus Christ, presence of pure love coming to my heart, opening my heart. Sometimes it felt like open heart surgery. It was incredibly incredibly tender, incredibly luminous, incredibly beautiful, sacred experiences. And I reintegrated various Christian approaches into my daily life, into my spiritual practice. It's very common for me to make the sign of the cross. I usually do this several times per day. I make the sign of the cross. I say, "Thank you, God." I say different types of prayers. I listen to a lot of Christian music. I feel the Christian operating system that was handed down to me is especially valuable within family life. I became a father and a husband in the last few years, and in a way, I think I needed to reintegrate a lot of the Christian operating system of my ancestry and root myself there in order to stay put within the pressure cooker of family life and transfigure into the more rooted, fatherly, mature, masculine version of me who could actually hold that new phase of life and stay put and stand strong in that new phase of life. So I'm extremely grateful for Christianity. I mean, right over there on my little kind of mini altar over there, I've got a statue of the Virgin Mary with baby Jesus from Mexico. I've got a beautiful kind of silver encrusted, I don't think it's real silver, but it's a beautiful silver encrusted kind of image of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus that I got in Vatican City. I went to Vatican City last year, I believe, and I've also got a Buddha over there. I've got a crucifix. I've got some different types of iconography. So yeah, that can just show you that I have deeply reintegrated the Christianity of my youth. I go to church as well sometimes. I don't feel a need to strongly identify as Christian at the moment, yet I feel deeply connected to my ancestry, deeply connected to the church, deeply connected to this beautiful tradition of devotion and sanctification, humility. I find Christianity contains tremendously powerful psycho-spiritual technologies for humility, which is very valuable for me as my psychedelic use for many years had a tendency to make me kind of ungrounded, inflated, grandiose, develop a bit of a guru complex, a bit of a God complex. So the Christian view of kind of humbling oneself, bowing down as a child of God, bowing down before divinity, and saying things like, you know, "Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner," or "Lord, I am not worthy to receive you, but only say the word and I shall be healed." These types of prayers are incredible psychotechnologies for humility medicine, and they wouldn't necessarily be optimal for people who are really deep in a space of guilt or shame. And this is where I think this is a shadow of Christianity, that a lot of modern Christianity does drive people into a space of intense guilt or shame or self-loathing. And then if people repeatedly continue to say the prayers of Christianity, like "I'm not worthy to receive you, only say the word and I shall be healed," or calling themselves a sinner, it could create just a feedback loop that drives them further into a shame hole. And yet for me, that medicine was really needed. That medicine was really needed. And like I said, the family values of the Christian operating system were really needed. I had been living kind of a Peter Pan, vagabond, wildly free lifestyle for many years, kind of wandering the earth prior to family life. And my operating system basically consisted of a smorgasbord of kind of non-dual and new age perspectives that I had pieced together through my explorations. And I still integrate a great deal of that smorgasbord. And yet it was really the reintegration of Christianity that felt very, very important. You could say I'd been living kind of a left-hand pathy lifestyle for many years, and I needed to reintegrate the right-hand path, the path of more so devotion, selfless service, dignity, humility, yeah, not that the left-hand path can't also be dignified, but generally the right-hand path more so signifies devotion, service, humility, which are some of the biggest things I needed to reintegrate. So I've been experiencing this synthesis of right hand and left hand path. Generally, the left hand path of spirituality more so signifies the iconoclastic strains of burn it all down, no tradition, no system, direct non-dual truth, individuation, tantric sensual exploration of all of life, inclusion of all of life's most adventurous and unorthodox pathways. So yeah, I was pretty left-hand pathy, and the reintegration of the right-hand path has been valuable for me. And yeah, another point I wanted to make, many people would probably assume that that non-duality, if somebody goes deep into non-duality, that would cause them to abandon and disavow any religious system or ideology that they had integrated. At least I think some kind of neo-Advaita radical non-duality people assume this, kind of the Jed McKenna crowd, this type of person. I don't think this is the case at all, because I've also been on this trajectory of deeply exploring the world's non-dual traditions for many years. I had my first openings to non-duality about 14 years ago or something like this at this point. And I deeply explored, Taoism, Zen, other forms of Buddhism, Dzogchen, Vajrayana. Very notably, I've spent a ton of time with Peter Brown's Yoga of Radiant Presence, which is kind of like a modern distillation of Dzogchen and Kashmir Shaivism and Zen that strips away a lot of the kind of more decorative trappings of those traditions, the outer kind of decorative aspects, and it just goes straight to the heart of things. The Yoga of Radiant Presence is just all about going directly to what is true here and now, abiding with this non-conceptual positivity of pure radiant truth that is our experience right now and always is our experience right now, abiding with that, bathing in that, letting that seduce you, getting a bit drunk on the sheer miraculous, unpindownable, indefinable texture and lusciousness of this gorgeous living poetry all around us, and doing that kind of in the absence of words, in the absence of concepts. And Peter's assertion is that you don't need to deconstruct what is false. You just need to spend a bunch of time, whenever you feel like it, tasting and abiding with that positivity of what is true, and that will do the heavy lifting. Simply being with what is true will increasingly reveal itself to you as the only thing you've ever been experiencing, which is just this instantaneous flash of pure intelligence right now, flash of pure intelligence right now. That will increasingly be revealed, and that will become sort of a more primary perspective in your mode of being, superseding, transcending, and including the prior default human view of, whatever your human view might have been. And maybe a lot of your human beliefs will just evaporate in that process. But in my experience, a lot of the human perspectives still remain even after emptiness, which the word emptiness can be a bit misleading, but emptiness points at the same thing as infinity, non-finitude, unresolvability, unpindownability, nebulosity, ambiguity. There's this fundamental indefiniteness in the field of experience that turns out to be an incredibly liberating quality when you see it. It occasions a a gradual collapse or a seeing through of all fixed views, as you see that no fixed view could actually contain what this is. No fixed view could ever contain this infinity, because even a single instant of your experience, if you froze this instant, and you wrote a billion treatises about what this instant is, you would still not be able to capture what this just a single instant of experience is. So this kind of reveals the bottomlessness. Emptiness points at the bottomlessness, the literally infinite artistry that is completely unsayable and just forever opens into more of itself. So even after emptiness has been tasted to a profound extent, in recent months, I went through quite a profound, as I said, I had my first glimpses and openings about 14 years ago. That began to really intensify about 5 years ago after a big heartbreak, and when I started working a lot with ayahuasca and 5-MeO DMT, Bufo alvarius, that seemed to accelerate. That's kind of a fun mashup, but accelerate this non-dual recognition. Especially 5-MeO is incredibly non-dual, and probably one of the only potential traps of 5-MeO is just that it tends to occasion such unfathomably massive experiences. I mean, we're talking like universe death of total dissolution into pure formless godlight, peace beyond description, pre-vibratory stillness of an unfathomable serenity. And when you have those types of pop-out experiences or cessation experiences or such all-encompassingly formless experiences, the one kind of stumbling block there is that you can get the idea that that's the goal, or that's what you're looking for, or that is more special somehow than this right here, right now, which turns out to not be the case, because there's no hierarchy, there's no dichotomy whatsoever. There's no dichotomy whatsoever, no hierarchy whatsoever, because ultimately there's only one thing, and not even that, there's only one thing. So any special pop-out 5-MeO dissolution cessation type experience, where does that occur? That occurs right here in this same radiant field of presence as you're experiencing right now. You've never left this radiant field of present experiencing. And Peter Brown's yoga is really, really extraordinary for revealing that, really extraordinary for bringing the absolute, the most immaculate, formless God nature, bringing it down into and as the substrate of everyday experience. And so, anywho, I had a lot of, again, openings to this, deepenings of this over the last years. And then in recent months, there was another quite profound wave where I was practicing the yoga of radiant presence, which, by the way, hardly feels like a practice in any kind of like rigorous or difficult sense. It's not like sitting in intense meditation through an act of massive discipline for hours. The yoga of radiant presence is just so fun to me. That's why I feel it's the most genius spiritual practice. At least for me, it is incredible because you really just let yourself be seduced. At any moment in life, you can practice this. It's really just a bag of tricks for snapping yourself out of normalcy, snapping out of your typical human story, and just getting very kind of phenomenologically, existentially intimate with the actual unsayable texture, lusciousness, detail, juiciness of this radiant presence that is here right now. You just spend a lot of time with that. So anywho, I was practicing that for a few hours per day, and then at a certain point it felt like the yoga just started practicing me, for several days there, and it was like everything everything was just being seen through, in a way, being hollowed out. Everything was being revealed as incredibly transparent, insubstantial, dreamlike, weightless. It was incredibly liberating, and this went on for several days. And yeah, I mean, there were other wild things that happened during those days. I almost don't want to talk about some of the more seemingly special aspects, because it's easy for the mind to then latch onto that and say, oh, that needs to happen to me. My experience needs to look like that, before I discover that this is already wholeness. This is already what is longed for. But I don't think that's the case. It'll look different for everyone. But yeah, in my case, I mean, like I say, everything was being hollowed out for a few days. There was one kind of like sober, samadhi-like experience, or almost like a pop-out experience of just everything being devoured by this loving silence, just pure silence. Yeah, I was laying down while that happened, and had some visions of, I believe, Yogananda and Christ. Yeah, there have been different visions of different avatars and sages that come to me at different times too. But again, don't don't latch on to the there's a trap of this video, and maybe this is a trap of the way that my ego works. I have a mythologizing tendency. I like to tell stories and talk about these, to me, very fascinating aspects of experience, but it can be easy to latch onto those and be like, oh, wow, that's so special. My experience needs to look like that, or else I won't be free. But, we're all free right now is the thing. You're free right now. This is it. This is it. This is the finish line. You drinking a cup of coffee is just as special as you hugging Jesus Christ in heaven. It is literally the same thing. It's this radiant presence here now. And it's miraculous that this radiant presence can kind of pull the wool over its own eyes and make itself feel like it's just having a mundane, boring, everyday human experience. I mean, look at the astonishing miracle of that, that this field of infinitely imaginative, pure intelligence and radiance can hoodwink itself into just feeling like, oh yeah, it's just my humdrum everyday human life. I guess it's 7 a.m. right now. I have time to go to the office, and this is all just normal life. Like that is miraculous. That is totally astounding that it can do that. So, anywho, anywho, I had this fresh wave of recognition. This, it was a heavy, I would say it was my clearest seeing of emptiness. Emptiness really dawned, and I was really bowled over by the simplicity that was revealed, the simplicity and the all-inclusiveness. It was just like, wow, life has always been so damn simple. So damn simple. All we've ever had to deal with is this moment right here now. That's all we've ever known, and this moment is dancing itself. It's literally done. It shines forth as a pure completion instantaneously. In this instantaneous flash, it's already done. You don't even have to do anything. It's just doing itself. And it includes everything. The all-inclusivity really bowled me over, the way that it embraces all of formfulness, all of form. All of our sacramental human journeys are just fully embraced in this cozy bear hug, this cozy, radiant bear hug. So just all-inclusive, nothing negated whatsoever. Peter Brown would sometimes say there is no illusion. It's just all reality. It's all real. And yeah, that was the feeling for me. No dichotomy whatsoever, no hierarchy, nothing more real than anything else. Just this right now is as real as it gets. This is reality. How could we ever know something other than experience itself? If something were to appear to us, where would it appear other than in experience? Awareness, consciousness, whatever you want to call this radiant field of seamless apparition where we always reside. So Anywho, I think again that some of like the Jed McKenna type crowd might think that after this depth of opening or recognition, that there would just be a natural relinquishment of any human religion or wisdom tradition. And to me, this is not not the case, because for me, what again is revealed through non-dual opening is just life itself. It just reveals that life itself has always been this all-inclusive, simple wholeness, this all-inclusive, simple rest and freedom that is right here, right now, just this instantaneous flash that is prior to any of our stories or definitions about it, and yet fully inclusive of all our human perspectives, philosophies, wisdom traditions. It's just that as emptiness really dawns, you just see that none of these perspectives, philosophies, wisdom traditions need to be held as solid, final, all-encompassing objective truths. You don't have to make them into solid, final, all-encompassing objective truths. You can see them as one beautiful poetic perspective of how this can seem to be and how this can relate to itself and interact with itself. So in that sense, to me, there's absolutely no contradiction whatsoever between noticing Dzogchen. The word Dzogchen means great perfection, great completion. Just noticing that life itself has always been this great completion, this great perfection, and continuing to allow this beautiful integration of the heart sanctifying, heart opening, heart purifying devotional path of Christic mysticism. Christic mysticism, which doesn't even require me to identify as Christian. Again, like I don't feel a strong need either way. I'd be happy to go to mass, and yeah, I don't really feel a need to identify with it, and yet I'm deeply connected to it. I'm deeply connected to it. I don't feel a need to solidify it as like a rigid identity or belief system that says this is objectively absolute truth. Yet I see Christianity and Christic, Christ-centered mysticism as this incredibly vivid, incredibly heart-touching, incredibly human, incredibly divine, children embracing devotional path, incredibly beautiful path. And I find a tremendous amount of medicine in this path. And so for me, there's no contradiction whatsoever between non-duality and any practice, path, wisdom, tradition, theology, ideology, any approach to human life, because it's all always been included. It's all always been nothing other than the shining forth of and the play of and the dancing of the Dharmakaya, the radiant energy that shines forth from this field of pure awareness right here, right now. Pure awareness is not somewhere else. It's this right here, right now. This is the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya all at once. This is the Father, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus Christ all at once right here. We are resurrected in every moment. Every moment. Everything appears and everything vanishes simultaneously. If you look closely at experience, you notice this, the total impermanence, the total instability, the total simultaneous crucifixion, resurrection of all appearances. This is why Dzogchen says all phenomena self-liberate upon arising, because if you look closely, everything is so infinitely detailed, so infinitely pixelated, so permeated, all the sense fields permeated by this quality of pure dancingness, pure buzzing aliveness that never actually crystallizes or solidifies or concretizes into an objectifiable, graspable, pin-downable form. Before you could say what it is, it's already something else. It's just this continual morphingness, this continual self-liberation. So because nothing ever becomes anything in a profound sense, this is why nothing can trap you. This is why all phenomena self-liberate upon arising, because they never even become what you think they are. Before you could think of what anything is, it's already something different. So if you learn how to be with experience as this ever-morphing field of infinitely unpin-downable artistry and dancingness that is just perpetually shifting as this field of pure buzzing aliveness. If you notice, you begin to notice more deeply that your experience has always been that, you will discover that simple liberation, that simple freedom that is ever present, that nothing can trap you because nothing ever becomes anything solid in a profound sense. Nothing can trap you, because to be trapped, you'd have to know what a situation is. You'd have to know what trapped means. And we don't know what anything is in a profound sense, because before the mind can pin it down and say, this is that, it's already become something else. You see, it's already become something else. And this is what you notice when you become really sensitive to more like the Sambhogakaya dimension of radiant energy that all appearances are made of. And again, what I'm saying, I know that at the more like Nirmanakaya level of, what appear to be solid physical beings and entities, what I'm saying would seem to make no sense at all. But that's why the yoga of radiant presence sensitizes us to the Sambhogakaya and the Dharmakaya within that Sambhogakaya, this radiant energy that evidences this quality of pure, bottomless, self-awake radiance. Pure, bottomless, self-awake radiance is all that we ever come in contact with. So again, that's totally all-inclusive. It's always been all-inclusive. It includes anything that's ever seemed to happen to you, any belief you've ever held, anything you've ever engaged in. It has always been this unpin-downable display and presentation of this pure poetry of the Dharmakaya right here and now. Has always been the very body of God, the body of God. That's the suggestion, that's the invitation. Check it out, see for yourself, just look at experience and just keep asking, what is this? What is experience? And look into Peter Brown's Yoga of Radiant Presence if you like. I've got some other videos on this type of stuff if you feel called to go deeper into this. But it can sound very foreign, very strange from the human perspective, and yet it is incredibly liberating, because instead of feeling locked into this perspective where you are a small, puny, weak being in a vast universe who needs to jump through 8,000 hoops to maybe survive and achieve success and maybe be a good enough boy that you get allowed into heaven someday, or you clear up all your karma 8,000 lifetimes from now and you attain enlightenment. No, you can just, there's another perspective available that's more rooted in a primal engagement with the raw fact of experience itself. Another perspective that doesn't make any assumptions about what this is and says, look, what can I prove beyond doubt is here right now? And if you look closely at that, really it can't be said at all, but you can discover, okay, radiant presence. That's all that I can ever prove is really here. This is a very powerful fact to notice. What's here right now? Well, looks pretty radiant and it's present, and I can't say much more about it than that. There are other qualities of it that can be discovered and that are really beautiful. But just looking at that naked fact of, okay, well, there's this dancing light energy of presence. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is. Nothing within this field of radiance can be extricated, can be extracted out from the rest of it and, identified as some separate entity, because it all goes together. It all codependently arises, as they say in Buddhism. It's all this seamless wholeness that shines forth as this pure continuum, and we just don't know what that is. So when you abide with that for a while, when you taste that for a while, it starts to replace your default human perspective, and you realize that a more primal engagement with the raw fact of what we can really know about experience, suggests that you are much more like a completely self-luminous, self-dancing field of infinite intelligence, a field of infinite imagination. You are that, and nothing is needed. It's just totally self-sustaining. It's totally self-sufficient. Nothing can really touch it or harm it or scratch it or disturb it in any fundamental sense. It's just dancing itself. It's doing itself. It's just hanging out. It's just abiding in and as its own poetry, its own majesty. And you are that. So that reorientation is available for someone who feels a calling to explore this mystery, to explore the mystery of experience. And it's totally okay if you don't feel that calling. You know, as Jed McKenna says, life is like an amusement park, and why would you want to leave the amusement park? You know, the amusement park is incredible. It's wonderful. It's a lot of fun to be fully absorbed in the perspective of being a human being in this amusement park. However, at a certain point, you might get tired of that. At a certain point, it might start to feel corrosive, you know. You might start to feel like these guys in the background here, this is some art I made with Midjourney of Christ emanating light in hell. You might start to feel like one of these wretched, lost souls, kind of demon souls who've become very forgetful of their true Christ nature. And so they've found themselves in this contorted karmic condition through inauspicious deeds and forgetfulness, ignorance. They found themselves in this contorted, wretched condition. And for them, they're not having fun in the amusement park anymore. They're looking for a remembrance of their true, radiant God nature. They're looking for a remembrance of what Christ said when he said, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and the kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth, and men do not see it. And when he said, before Abraham was, I am, the eternal presence, the eternal presence. That's what you are, that's what is here. And so at a certain point, people can get tired of the amusement park and want to remember what we are in a more fundamental, primal, very simple sense. Just this simple field of radiance that is right here. It's all we ever have to deal with. So that's available. And actually, I feel Jed doesn't do justice to this when he implies that recognizing radiant presence is akin to leaving the amusement park, or, you know, he says like happiness means you're having a good dream, sadness means you're having a bad dream, enlightenment is getting out of the dream altogether. I can see what he's pointing at, but also no, the amusement park, the dreaming totally continues. It totally continues, you know? It's right here. This radiance is always shining forth as something. And depending on the karmic makeup of your particular character, you can continue to dance and participate as fully as you like within the roller coaster amusement park of Maya, of quote unquote samsara, which, again, no dichotomy between samsara and nirvana. This is samsara, this is nirvana, this is hell, this is heaven. Simultaneously, no actual dichotomy here. It's all a matter of perspective. This is kind of like a Rorschach blot, and if you are projecting very solidified beliefs onto this that say this is hell, this is horrible, then that's how it's going to be experienced. Whereas if you relinquish all solidifications, if you relinquish all fixed views, you discover just this simple, radiant field of pure allowingness that is dancing itself in a rather enjoyable fashion. So yeah, basically, as Peter would sometimes say, you can have your cake and eat it too. The dreaming doesn't have to stop. The amusement park doesn't have to stop. It goes on. It's definitely taken less seriously. It's given less primacy. It's no longer turned into something definitively objective and knowable. Nisargadatta said something like, the only thing that happened to me is that I used to create a world and now I don't create a world anymore. Meaning I don't solidify all these projections, all these assumptions, all these stories. I don't solidify them as a knowable, objective world that is definitely out there and that I'm kind of caught up in and that I need to figure out how to navigate somehow. And that I don't claim that I'm this agentic being with full control who needs to somehow save himself and save everyone and save the universe. That's an epic mythology to live inside for a while if you want to, but it can also be pretty damn heavy. That's pretty damn heavy. So, there's a big part of me that loves the lazy man's yoga, as Peter Brown called it, of just going directly to truth now and just noticing, oh, okay, this is already the great completion. This is already whole. This is already perfect in a profound sense. Nothing needs to be done. None to do but be you, baby. None to do but be you. And from that space, you can still fully choose to participate however you are karmically inclined to do so. A cat like me, I'm inclined toward hip hop, jazz, funk, dance. I love to be playful, and I'm inclined toward this path of sanctification, the Christic devotional path of allowing the God nature to touch my heart, to heal my inner child, to bring forth as much pure love as I can generally emanate unto myself and those around me and unto all of our inner children and the children of this world. And I'm inclined to, attempt to bring forth a more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible, a world that we would feel better about having our children live within. And that just seems to be my kind of karmic makeup. And that's a never-ending engagement, a never-ending exploration. There's always deeper levels of sanctification, purification that one can go to. I'm just, in many respects, a child on my hands and knees, a cub on my hands and knees on that path of sanctification, of divinization. And yet, what has now been seen, which is really a load off, is that nothing truly hinges upon me needing to go through this hero's journey of endless sanctification and purify my heart. Of course, it's still a sacred invitation to do that. It's still beautiful to do that. And in one sense, you can say, yeah, a lot hinges on that, and that's really important to do. And yet, from another side of the coin, you could say from the viewless view of emptiness, no, nothing hinges on that. This already and always is the Christ body, the Christ nature, the Dharmakaya, the great perfection, whatever you want to call it. It just is that. And so that takes a lot of pressure off. That takes a lot of pressure off. It's much easier to just simply enjoy the unfoldment, the self-dancingness of this radiant field of aliveness here and now, this radiant field of aliveness here and now. And then, let your character do what your character does, Sometimes I'm on my more right-hand pathy ish of, sanctification and God, please allow me to be loved today and all days toward myself and everyone around me. And other times I'm on my more left-hand pathy trickster antics, and I'm on my Peter Pan. I'm on my just pure funky free flow wild jazz and hip hop, and let's just play our way to heaven on earth. Let's just celebrate our way to heaven on earth. And as I was saying, these two, left hand and right hand, continue to integrate and synthesize and harmonize more and more fully for me, and that feels really good. I was doing some Hakomi the other day, a beautiful one-to-one modality. A friend was guiding me. I can highly recommend Hakomi. It's kind of like somatic IFS therapy. And I was having a beautiful experience of both left hand and right hand being over my heart and feeling this baking both left-hand path and right-hand path in the fires of love, and allowing those two embodied karmic realities to fuse together and synergize and harmonize more fully within my being. So that was beautiful. So again, this can look like anything. There's any number of ways it can look. It can look like hell and demons. You know, I've had wild experiences on ayahuasca of encountering dark sorcerers and demonic presences, and it's just when emptiness is deeply seen, you stop concretizing these images. You know, this is a big trap that psychonauts tend to fall into. They concretize, they solidify what has been seen on psychedelics. They try to make it a knowable, graspable, objective truth, and this can get you into a lot of trouble. Just as much as solidifying and concretizing the 3D typical Gaian material world can get you into trouble. Because when you concretize any belief system and you say, yes, this is how it is, I see how it is, reality will always evade that. Reality is too slippery. It will never fit into those concretizations, those structuralizations. And so it's painful to try to fit reality into these tiny structures that it can't fit into. It's like trying to fit the ocean into a film canister. Just ain't gonna happen. And yet, I still fully honor the visionary and revelatory experiences I've had. I don't need to concretize and solidify them as final objective truths to honor them. I honor the experiences I've had of seeing demons and literally calling upon the light of Christ to intercede, and seeing in the visionary realms, holding out a crucifix and emanating light unto these demonic presences and sending them up to God the Father and saying, you know, go to the Father, go to the Father now, the Father will know what to do with you. And just, yeah, for me, the light of Christ is like my truest lineage holder in this life. From a more shamanic view, the light of Christ is what I'm called to work with, most notably when it comes to interceding on behalf of sentient beings, calling out for liberation. The light of Christ I've found to be incredibly powerful within the shamanic realms, the subtle astral realms of demons and angels and various types of subtle energetic phenomena. And yet it's just so helpful when you cease to concretize these realms. You know, if you concretize them, you make them like objectively real, that can really get to you, that can really trouble you, that can really weigh on you. Whereas emptiness is just kind of the ultimate liberator, the ultimate lightness, because you just see, oh, okay, all phenomena self-liberate upon arising. The past is completely gone. The future is nowhere to be found. Just this razor's edge of pure nowness, just this instantaneous flash of pure nowness, which I can't really say anything about because it's so infinitely detailed in its artistry that you could write a billion treatises and not be able to say what one instant of it is. And that's its freedom. That's its freedom. How could it be a problem if you don't know what it is? How could it be a problem if you don't know what it is? So that applies too to these visions of demons and Christ, and even to your family and the most intimate things. And this doesn't have to be in any way a negation or a reduction. It can be a revelation of the true infinity and mystery of everything. You can still fully have the incredibly sacred experience of Christ or of your family, your children. You know, my daughter, I looked in her eyes and was just weeping the other day. She touched my heart so deeply. I love my daughter Leela so much. And that human love is fully there and fully available. And I can also notice her infinity, notice her bottomless mystery, notice that she is an artwork, a living sculpture sculpted by the hand of the Creator, and that I cannot pin her down or reduce her in any way. I cannot resolve her as being, oh yeah, you know, that's my daughter Leela, and she's limited to being that picture of her that I've created in my mind. No, she's not limited to that. She can't be limited or pinned down. So it's a revelation of the truly infinite, the truly bottomlessly rich texture and radiance of everything around us, everything around us. That's what emptiness really is, which is why the word emptiness is kind of an unfortunate word. I think many Westerners, and especially Christians, probably can feel allergic to this word because they're like, oh no, 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 emptiness, like no, that's a trap. Yeah, that's the dark void. They just get this mental image of like a dark, empty void, when really emptiness is the most luminous thing imaginable. It's just pure luminosity that can look like anything because it's so literally free and infinite that it can look like anything. You know, if you look at this light shining from behind Christ up here in this image, that's a great, great artistic depiction of luminous emptiness, because you see the kind of dancingness, the morphingness, the pixelation, the unpatterned patternness, the completely unsayable geometries within that light. That is that is radiant emptiness, because it is empty of fixed form, because it has no clear form of its own, because it's so impermanent, it's so unstable, it's so dynamic, it's so infinitely detailed, it's so slippery. It can look like anything. It can shine forth as all of creation. It's the ultimate creative principle. It's the ultimate shapeshifter, the ultimate chameleon. This pure radiant light, pure radiant light. That's what allows everything to be. That's what allows everything to shine forth, allows everything to present as anything. That's what allows all of us to be living in our own universe that is our own unique artistic creation. And every one of those universes maps onto this radiance and is reflected back by this radiance because it has no intrinsic form of its own. That's what allows it to convincingly seem like anything we are holding it to be. And that's astonishing. And yet the entire time it remains that which is beyond any perspective or any way that it can be held to be. It remains naked radiance, naked Christ light, naked loving luminosity, naked effulgence. It is that inextricably, and that is the fabric of your experience right here and now. That's the fabric of your life right here and now. Your life is already fully enlightened because it is that light. Your life is the light of God. Your life is the light of God, the essence of God, the essenceless essence of naked, shapeless God light, shaping itself into all of these utterly extraordinarily juicy forms. It's astonishing, you know, it's truly astonishing. So yeah. All right, family. So I think I've been going for maybe an hour or something here. This is one of the longer ones I've made in a while. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for appreciating. Much, much love to you. Much love, much peace, much joy. Christ be with you. God be with you. Peace be with you. Dharmakaya be with you. Thank you, Buddha, Christ, Anandamayi Ma, Lao Tzu, Yogananda, Ramana Maharshi. Thank you, Peter Brown, Kuman Kaya, Remy, and Ashley DeLon. Thank you to Leela, Tanya, my daughter, my wife. Thank you to my mom and dad, brother Mike, my sister Anna, all my family, my grandparents, all my ancestors, all my descendants. Thank you to all beings, all sentient beings. Thank you for this life, this moment, this opportunity, this gift, this breath. Thank you for the waters of life which flow so purely and uninhibitedly and are ever available for any being who is truly calling for restoration, for nourishment, for revivification. Thank you for the omnipresent oceanic waters of life that are there to rinse us off. At any moment, we can never go so far away that we can't come back home, family. Can never go so far away that we can't come back home, because home is right here. Home is right here where it's always been. Home is right here where it's always been. And when we pray, when we ask for Christ, God, Dharmakaya to be with us, to intercede, nothing can truly keep God away, because God has never been anywhere else. This is home right now. This is God right now. God is with you. God be with you. God bless you, family. Thank you for listening. You can fully trust God. God loves you. I love you. Trust the path, trust the flow. Ain't nothing to do but be you, baby. Nothing to do but be you. One love, peace, namaste, peace, infinity. I love you. Thank you for listening. Take care, family. Peace. I love you.